Welcome back to MMA Unhinged, and joining us today is Miranda Maverick. If I was speaking with Miranda a few weeks ago, we'd be talking about her fight with Tracy Cortez. Unfortunately, Tracy will be moving up to another fight, so Miranda will be taking on the UFC newcomer and some would say prospect Dione Barbosa. So, Miranda, thanks for taking the time again.
No problem. No problem at all.
Yeah. So how are you? I mean, the fight is coming up pretty close here. So how are you, and how are you feeling as everything's coming to close here?
I'm feeling great. I have one more hard sparring, and then the rest is just technical training focused on losing the weight. Obviously, the diet's the hardest part. I think that's pretty much what all of us fighters agree on more than anything. So very, very strict at this point. Start the weight cut tomorrow as far as water loading and getting prepared to do the cut healthily and ready to just jump right into that. Basically, 2 gallons of water a day until the Monday of my fight. So getting ready to do that. I'll be attending the UFC fights in Denver, so I am excited about that. So I'll at least get to watch my prospective opponent fight Rose, who I've been training with a lot. Of course, there was a lot going on with that fight, a lot of back and forth. A lot of things I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about as far as fight offers and stuff in between all that mess. Like,
Hmm.
media is not always right when they release fights that happen, and nothing was ever confirmed for Tracy, and nothing was ever confirmed for me for like 5 days while we were going back and forth.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm not going to try to throw you on the spot here. But that being said, you were talking about now that you're getting in the nitty gritty in the last part of your camp here and water loading and whatnot. Now I know I'm a few weeks late here, but I think I saw on Instagram that you got to celebrate your birthday a little early. Am I correct?
Yeah, I did. I actually went to the
Yeah.
zoo and went to like an outdoors day, but my birthday was July 1st, and my friends had enough consideration to be like, "Well, let's go somewhere at least a couple weeks beforehand so she can eat a little bit of something." So, got to enjoy my day, had a fun time, and I'm definitely looking forward to splurging after my fight again.
Well, I was gonna say, safe to say that you're gonna leave the cake and the sweets for after the fight.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, was that like you said? I know that you want to like enjoy yourself. So I guess for yourself, the position that you're in, because you're in the cusp of the that top 15, and opportunities happen. So do you feel like you're gonna wait for after the fight to see where the damage is, how you're feeling, and then maybe make that decision if you're just gonna go all in after the fight, or are you still is that your plan?
I mean, I'm still gonna eat healthy. I just will have my cheat meals that I have. I'm definitely not a binge eater after my fights. I don't gain a lot of weight. I always stay ready for short notices. For instance, if I got done with my fight and they called me for a fight 2 weeks later, I wouldn't have a problem with it. So I'd be ready for that. I want to stay healthy. I want to stay ready for another one. After my last fight, I was ranked number 14, and fights just happen in between. So the whole cusp of rankings, I feel like I am ranked and higher than I even am, just
Hmm.
because the timing makes a difference. I'm going to get this win, probably be back to that. I've been bouncing around the 14 and 15 since I basically got in the UFC, and I plan on breaking that at some point. The plan was with Tracy to fight somebody up the rankings and get higher, but once again, that has been delayed. So hoping to get a ranked opponent next that's higher up.
Well, and I do want to kind of touch upon that, but we haven't seen you in the Octagon since February, and I know in the last few years you've only had a chance to fight twice a year. Is there been circumstances that have put you in that position, or is that something that kind of works for you and your schedule, or what's going on with that?
That is not my decision. And if you look at most people in the UFC, especially the girls, I think it's just a roster
Hmm.
thing, and the matchmakers have to get through the whole roster. But I ask for fights all the time. I ask for short notices. I stay ready. Sometimes girls refuse. Sometimes things happen. Every once in a while, I'll have something offered to me. Like last November, I would have had one, but I was sick in bed with COVID, and it was like a 5 day notice. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's probably not going to work too well. That's my first time I've like actively turned down a fight. And I don't plan on that happening anymore. It was just shitty circumstances. So, as far as how many fights I want a year, man, I'd want four, but it's not my decision. It's not my call. We fighters don't get to just choose when we fight or who we fight. It's up to the matchmakers, up to the promotion, and who they can get lined up.
Well, and I want to turn back to this question after.
Mhm.
But that being said, after you jumping into the rankings and climbing that ladder, we've kind of seen where ranked fighters do get those opportunities to headline like fight nights and whatnot. So, do you kind of look forward to something like that?
Man, I'd love to. I'd love to. I would have loved the opportunity with Rose. You know, it almost came down to it to where they were asking me to do it, but Tracy agreed to terms and it ended up happening, even though I was training with Rose pretty much the whole camp. So that would have been ironic. But I would love to have a main event, of course. Like, love the exposure, love the opportunity. I don't care if it's 5 rounds, I don't care if it was 7 rounds. Like, I'd love that exposure and opportunity.
Well, what's also ironic is that you've got a chance to train with Jasmine Jasvidius, who's kind of in the same boat. The difference is her opponent did fall out, so she's got a brand new opponent as well. So when you're training in fight camp for a particular opponent, and now you have to switch everything for a new opponent, and maybe a bit of a different style, does it kind of help to train with someone who's also in the same boat as you?
I don't think so. I mean, Jasmine came out to Denver just to prepare ahead of her fight, to
Okay,
the elevation and stuff. It's not like we were actively like live training for weeks and weeks on
right.
it. It's just a couple days she came in, we did some technical work together. So it's not like we did the camps together. On top of that, like, my training never changes. Like, I basically try to improve at everything that I do.
Hmm.
There's very little that we focus on as far as the other person. We usually focus on me. And if they have, of course, a specialty, we do make sure my defense is there. We're looking out for something, but overall, fighters are the same at this level. They're all pretty well rounded. You've got to have the same game plan going in because we all know that things can happen on short notice. I've had a lot of people fall out the week of and have to get a short notice replacement. So I'm ready for anything, whether it's a wrestler, striker, judo, like this girl, all around good. Like, I'm ready for it all. I'm well rounded as well, and like to call myself both a striker and a grappler, depending on which fight you watch.
Of course, yeah. And I know your resume speaks for itself. And what is a typical fight camp timeline look like for you?
Yeah, so this one was actually longer than usual. I think I had 14 or 16 weeks that I knew about this one. So we didn't necessarily start fight camp early, but like I said, I stay fit, I stay trim, I stay ready for short
Hmm.
notices. So I was already training hard, already ready. And when we found out about the fight, got the contract signed, my coaches were actually like, let's dial it back for a few weeks so that you can let your body basically get up and wait. Let me get myself into a mindset of learn and improve for a little while. And then,
Hmm.
right at about 8 weeks, we started really amping it up. And so we go up this hill, reach a peak the last couple weeks or so, and now we'll start trailing down starting this next week.
Of course. And as I previously said, if we were speaking a few weeks ago, you'd be fighting Tracy Cortez, but now that you're taking on Dione Barbosa, that being said, we've also seen at times, and I understand that you would like to have a ranked opponent, but you're going to be taking on this fight, so kudos to you. We've also seen when fighters do happen to have that happen, win or lose. I think we also seen that it really does go a long way with Dana White in the UFC. So do you kind of keep that in your back pocket, knowing that if you do win this fight, you're successful? The UFC recognizes that, and also it should land you a ranked opponent afterwards.
I don't necessarily think that's true at all, actually. I've taken tons of short notices, done what people would consider favors for the UFC, but that's just not how it works. That only works if you're in like the top four or you're somehow a
Yeah.
favorite, from that aspect. And I don't think I'm either of those at this point in my career. I try to keep working my way up and
Hmm.
showing what I can do via my fight style. But I definitely haven't had any favors thrown my way in a while. But I do try to stay ready for short notices. They know that, so I am on their radar. I try to stay on their radar, and hopefully, because they did take Tracy from me, this opponent, not because I took the fight against Barbosa, but because they took my opponent, they'll kind of make it up to me afterwards. And I'm hoping so that I can work out with the matchmakers and stuff, and get that figured out afterwards. Because that would be ideal for me, is to get a fight within a few months after this one. Like, say
Hmm.
September would be absolutely ideal for me, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at Dion Barboza, and I think she brings in a very exciting style, and I think that with her being this prospect and her having a newcomer and really bringing in with I think she came from the Dana White Contender Series, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Uh, what kind of gets you? What is it about her that may get you excited about this fight?
And she's a judo Olympian, I think it is, or was at least in the
Hmm.
Olympic trials. So there's that to
Yeah.
think about. She has decent wrestling. She has fast hands. She's obviously been in LFA for a while. I've watched a lot of her fights. I'm
Hmm.
not too worried, I shouldn't say, but at the same time, I'm staying ready for anything. There's always a puncher's chance, and I also think that she's well rounded, so I've got to be aware of everything. I've got to be aware of her grappling for sure. But I do feel like I'm better in every single area. I'm impressed that she took the fight, and I'll respect her.
And do you feel like do you feel like there's a bit of pressure knowing that, she just kind of got one fight in the UFC, and if you want to add in the Dana White Contender Series, knowing that you're ranked and she's not, do you feel like there's more pressure on you, or do you feel like there's maybe more the pressure on her to take a big fight as it is?
Probably more pressure on me from a fan's perspective, but I don't really
Mhm.
feel it. Honestly, I'm ready to go in there, get this money, get paid, and get another fight. Like that's what I'm focused on. I have a lot of goals and dreams other than just fighting in life, and fighting's basically a means to that end. So plan on going in there, showing why I need a fighter who's ranked and making it a stepping stone for me. Like going in there, pummeling Barbosa and basically being like, listen, like this isn't the kind of fighter I need. I need someone ranked. Give it to me and proving why that's the case.
Of course. And you already talked about your ambitions about maybe fighting in September after this, and I know you're focused on your opponent, of course. But do you have any other plans in life? I know you said you want to go out after this fight and eat and enjoy, but do you have any plans, like anything outside of training and fighting, that you have for the rest of 2024?
I mean, absolutely. If anybody keeps up with me on social media and stuff, I do have my own businesses that I run. So I have prowlerpickles.com where I'm selling pickles that I make from scratch myself. I literally make them all. It's not a factory thing. It's not something I just sponsored by. I do make them all myself, spicy, sweet, traditional flavors. And I also started a honey venture this past few weeks. So I've raised honeybees since I was 12 years old. It's one of the first things I ever spent money on was getting hives and raising bees, and now I'm working with other local beekeepers and selling local honey. So that is also on the site prowlerpickles.com. In fact, right before this interview, I just got done making it its own Instagram page and Facebook page. So if anybody wants to go follow it, it's Prowler Pickles on Instagram. And then my honey one is at High Stakes Honey on Facebook and Instagram.
Excellent. I will follow. And that being said, so was it the whole honey side hustle that you had going on? Is that what got you in the whole pickle and jarring kind of
No, I
thing?
was raised on a ranch. Like we homesteaded our own
Mhm,
food since for as long as I can remember. Did everything from canning to gardening and vacuum sealing food, canning food, making our own
mhm.
salsa, all that kind of stuff. So pickling's definitely not the only thing I know how to do, but I decided to kind of take off with it as a business because last December I was making some for Christmas for my family and I was going to bring some home to them, and I made a story about it, and I had a few fans reach out and be like, "Hey, would you sell a jar?" And I thought about it for a while and I was like, you know what? Let me just make this into a business. Like I've been wanting to start a small business for a while. I had a little bit of time on my hands, although not much, and decided to just go for it. So I have, and now expanded it into the honey as well. So I do a lot of local farmers markets. I'm in a couple local stores here in Colorado, trying to expand into Missouri too, where my family's at. And I also sell online and can ship anywhere.
Well, lastly, I will add before I let you go, I think it'd be great if you can make this a big business. I think you need to talk with the UFC and put your business and put your business logo right on the canvas, just like the Proper 12 and all those other brands. I think that'd be awesome.
Man, I hope so. I hope it makes enough money that I could do that someday. I always tell people, I'm like, I got to have something after fighting. I'm going to get hurt or old one day, and hopefully the old happens first. So I got to have something else to go to. But, like I said, fighting's just a means to an end, not the end for me. It's just purely a chapter in my life. And I've got a lot of
Mhm.
other life to pursue and just kind of using this to get further in life. So if you guys want to support, go check out my businesses. I also have merch and memorabilia at fearthemaverick.com. I make all those designs myself, although I have a couple new designs that'll be coming out that I had help with. So I'm excited about that too.
Well, that's excellent, Miranda. You guys know where to follow and find her on all those socials. So, Miranda, it's a pleasure having you on. I know you're deep in fight camp here, so I don't want to take much more of your time. So it's a pleasure having you on, and just good luck on July 20th.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.